Vâng, và thưa quý vị, ngay sau đây thì ông Mikhail cũng sẽ giới thiệu đến quý vị những chia sẻ thú vị và tuyệt vời về những mẹo hay và những lưu ý quan trọng trong việc lập trình Intellij IDEA và đã từng được đoạt giải Java ID. Intellij IDEA được phát triển để có thể cải thiện hiệu suất lập trình với khả năng biên tập và phân tích code thông minh, tập hợp các công cụ hỗ trợ mạnh mẽ cho một loạt các ngôn ngữ lập trình. Và nếu như quý vị có bất cứ một câu hỏi nào thì hãy để dành câu hỏi đó, thì chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với phần Q&A vào cuối chương trình. Và bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với phần thuyết trình của ông Mikhail.
That's right. Hello. First question. Do you speak English?
Sure.
Do you need a translation?
No.
Thank you. You probably should have told our analyst he can ask this question first before doing the sequential translation, because I believe that I will be able to tell you at least twice more if we don't use translation than otherwise, well, because of time constraints. So let's try to do it without translation. If there are any issues, just let us know and you will get the translation back. Very good to see you here in Hanoi. So I'm Michael, and in fact, despite my marketing title, which you already heard, it should not scare you. I've been a developer for more than 10 years already, and they're working in web development and some of their desktop development as well. So today I'm going to show you a couple of sessions. The first one is about Intellij and tips and tricks, which are going to be applicable to all the IDEs by JetBrains, such as WebStorm, PHPStorm, RubyMine, Golang, and others. And the next session is going to be a very short introduction to Kotlin, because I'm not a Kotlin expert, but I know people who create Kotlin, so I can do some introduction to you. Okay, so probably let's start with Intellij. If I would only be able to see my screen. Thank you. And that was actually a very interesting warm-up, probably the most musical warm-up I ever had. It's like on the rock concert, when you have a band which plays before you, so it's very nice. It's going to be a bit difficult with the microphone right in front of me, but I'll try. So, Intellij IDEA, I've seen already that many of you use it, and I'm going to be showing you some of the tips and tricks which many developers don't know, and it should, in general, make you more productive, so that you will be able to use it tomorrow when you come to the office, or even today if you come to the office. And normally I try to cover at least 40-50 of these tips and tricks, so I hope that you will learn at least a couple of those. And today I'm also going to focus on some of their tips and tricks for a newer version of Intellij, which is Intellij 2.18.3, which has been released just this week, last week. And in fact, all of their Intellij-based IDEs are getting their release right now, these days. We release them 3 times a year, so now it's like a Christmas present for you as well. So the first one is in fact not directly about Intellij, but it's about what we call a Toolbox app. Do you know Toolbox app? Raise your hand. Okay, the whole 10 hands. 10%, not bad. So Toolbox app is one of their few things which we actually ship for you for free. And that's their thing which you can use to manage different installation of JetBrains desktop software. So we have all these different IDs, and I, for example, use quite a lot of them. I have all products back subscription, and it's very convenient to use it when I have different versions of the same tool. So for example, here I have Intellij of versions 0.18.3, 0.18.3.1 release candidate T. I know that's long. And then also nightly release of the next version. So what we do about 2 months before the main release is that we start issuing what we call early access preview builds. That's a kind of nightly builds which you can use and take advantage and test all the features before they actually come to their production-ready software. The thing is that these nightly builds, well, there might be issues. That's why Toolbox really helps you in order to manage all of those rollback and make sure that you have both stable version and let's say nightly version here. So a few things which are new in Toolbox of the recent version is that now you can do their automatic updates of the installs, so you don't need to go to Toolbox and tell, okay, just install me this. I still do that. I'm a bit old school when I'm traveling, because if something goes wrong, I will have to roll back. And another thing which it brings is your management of the project. So we have favorites and we have hiding project from Toolbox app, and basically on this projects tab you can see what projects are working in and what tools do you use for that, and you can change the tools and make sure that you're writing that in the version of the tool you need. Okay, then probably it's time to go to the ID. So that's going to be the last version of Intellij IDEA 18.3. And there, in order to help you a bit understand what's happening at the bottom, I hope you see that. At the bottom there's going to be a very convenient thing which is called presentation assistant. And it's going to tell you what their hotkey is on Windows and Linux. Because if you ask me, I don't know, because I haven't used it for like 7 years. So if you do some presentations in the office, that's also going to be very convenient for you to use it. And in JetBrains in general, we have about 3,500 plugins for Intellij-based IDs, and their presentation system is just one of them. So if you like, you can use it as well, again for free. And in fact, that's one of the things which is new in Intellij IDEA 18.3 is the way how you install and manage plugins. We completely redesigned the way you work with the plugins repository or marketplace, as we call it these days. And now you have a created featured plugins list and all the information about their new updates right in the ID so that you can discover all their plugins faster and easier. And a bit to set the mood, there are a lot of undiscovered features in the ID, and one of them is probably setting the background. So you can set the background of your editor to anything you like. You can put there, well, if you would see my screen, yes, you would see this amazing unicorn. Probably the video was too good, like the unicorn was too powerful to handle this HDMI signal, so now it's back. So yeah, if you want to put there a photo of your family, friends, and your children, that's probably the way to go. You can have all of these, have them in the editor to see what's happening there. But in order not to distract you here, because instead of the code you're going to be looking at the unicorn, I'm going to remove it. So yes, now it's kept clean. And the way how I actually look for that is called Search Everywhere, and that's an ultimate feature to find anything you need in the ID. Classes, files, symbols, actions. You just start typing and you have all kind of results from different types of assets in the ID. But then one of the things which is new in the last version is that you actually have a filter here. So in the tab, I changed from filter to filter. So I go through classes to files to symbols to actions, and in this case, it's easier to find what I'm looking for. So before we had a lot of dialogues, like a separate dialogue for searching files, searching class. Now it's just double shift, search everywhere, and that's it. You don't need anything else. And in fact, if you would be using the older version of navigation, like navigate to file, for example, it would just open the search everywhere, and it will filter what you have here. Another thing which works here, well, for many years, it's not something new, but it's very convenient. Look, if I start typing FK in uppercase, it actually understands that probably I'm looking for the file key class or file key Java, and it's going to match it as the first result because their capital F in key most probably means that I'm looking for those, and their fuzzy search means that it's not going to look for the exact match, but it's going to go and try to understand what it really looking for. And it's really flexible, so if you look for FK in lowercase, so we think that you're looking for FK second pass. I hope that's correct. Okay, then if you would be walking out of this hall, I don't know why would you do that, because we have nice juice and they're in the water, but if you would be doing that, probably the one thing you need to remember is this action. And I know that most of you have prejudices against the help menu. You should not. It's fine to go to help menu, and especially if you want to go and try to find this productivity guide. So productivity guide is very helpful because it's going to show you a lot of tips and tricks similar to those I'm showing you today. So for example, it tells me that the basic code completion have been used by me 4 minutes ago last time, but the browse external documentation I never used, or something else like command and command current line I used 6 months ago the last time. It gets you all the statistics on the features usage, and you can go through it and you can understand what parts of the ID have you already explored and what do you not use it? So that if you don't have me on stage, you can basically figure out some new stuff as well. And of course, it also gives you some statistics on there, from how many characters typing did code completion save you from. In my case, it's 11,000 characters, and there from how many possible bugs did quick fixes or intentions save you. In my case, it's 320. So you can probably sit on the Friday afternoon with your colleagues and they're compete, and those who lose, they're gonna buy you beer or some pizza or soup, something like that, and you will be able to understand how to use the IDE. And a lot of productive advices here around Intellij, they're in fact about their shortcuts and about hotkeys and about not using the mouse in order to navigate and work with the IDE. And there's a great way of how you can learn it. There's a plugin which is called Key Promoter X. There is a very good reason why I don't use it during the presentations, because it's really annoying, and that only feature of this plugin makes you learn all the hotkeys it suggests you. So as you see, every time when you try to use your mouse to navigate anywhere in the IDE or to click something, it's going to tell you, stop it, you have to use the shortcut, you have to use the hotkey. And that's exactly why I don't use it during presentations, because sometimes when I'm showing you around the interface of the IDE, I have to use the mouse to show you how it works here and there, so it will be just shouting at me all the time that I'm not using hotkeys properly. So this one you definitely want to install and explore how it works and get all the advice there. And in fact, I have this obsession about help menu for some reason, but we put there good stuff, you have to check it out. Another thing I wanted to show you there is the key map reference. And the key map reference is a very short PDF which you can print. And I believe here at their entrance you can also get their shortcuts for Intellij. And this one you can just hang somewhere on the wall, and for example, next to your bed. And I've seen even some company which team leads got this key map and they put it on the wall in the restroom so that their developers see this key map all the time, and they always learn the shortcuts to be even more productive. So this one you can explore, you can hang on the wall, you can see how it can make you more productive developer. Because we say that you can do anything with their shortcuts in the IDE except one thing. And this one thing, let me show you that. The only thing why you need mouse always in the IDE is to exit this. Oh, they actually fixed it. Look, before we always needed their mouse to exit this dialog. But in the newest version, they fixed it. You can, instead of just setting escape on the escape keyboard map press, now you can choose it here. Because before you could not exit this one. So now we can finally say that there is nothing you cannot do without a shortcut in the IDE. That's it. You can use shortcuts for everything. And then I was talking about navigation a bit, that you should not use the mouse, and let me show you a few very good ways to navigate. The first one is how you would navigate between tabs. You can even disable tabs, in fact. I didn't do it because sometimes they're useful, but instead of going and clicking those tabs, you can use command shift brackets or control shift brackets on Windows Linux and just go through them. But even better, my favorite navigation tip for Intellij is going through the recent files. You use Command E and you go through them, and in fact you can start typing, and it's gonna search for the recent files right here without any search dialogues or anything. And the same you can do in any tool window. So for example here in the project tool window, I just started typing test and then search for test, and now with arrow up and arrow down, and basically you can navigate from all of those. And by the way, how did I toggle and hide it? I used command 1, Y1, because there is one next to the project, right here. And next to the favorites, it's 2, next to structure, it's 7. So I can use those shortcuts with command or control in Windows Linux to toggle and hide those windows. Here we can navigate between those tabs, and command E is particularly interesting thing, but also you can use Control Tab as a switcher, which means that you don't need to press Enter when you choose the one you would like to work with. So I just, with one hand, I go a few times Control Tab, and I switch between files. Even better, you can use switcher between, you can use search in recently edited files instead of recently viewed files. So those are the ones I touched. Because normally you would be working with a very limited number of files. You would not be working with like dozens, because otherwise you would just forget what's happening there. Another new thing which is coming into 18.3 version is, well, it's from the creators of Search Everywhere, and they call it Run Anything. So it's double control, and you can literally run anything. So if you have Maven, or let's say Gradle tasks, or you have some run debug configurations, or you even have some of the projects, recent projects you're working with, you can just search for them and open them from this Run Anything. Especially convenient for run debug configurations, because you don't need to go to them right here. Another thing which have been added is multi-line search and replace here. So before you would be able to just use single line, so test 1 for example, but now you can use, I think it's Command Shift Enter, go and add some new lines, and you see that the results are changing. So basically you can do search and replace or multi-line expressions now. Don't use it for refactoring, use it for good cause. For refactoring you should use proper functionalities of refactorings, but if you do some really quick fixes, it might help you quite a lot. Then we added a few of the actions which have been available only in some other places before. So for example, open recent, and that's about recent projects. So before you would have to go to File, open recent, and then open from there. Right now you have it right here, and again you can do the quick lookup, and there it's going to show you all the recent projects which is matching this search. And also we got their project management, which we used to have only on the welcome screen, but now we have it here as well. So you can go to recent projects, and also you can organize them to the groups. So for example, this one I've been to Singapore, so this one is from Singapore. But we can rename it, and we can move some of their projects to the groups. So if you're working with a few types of projects, for example, or with a few companies as a contractor, then you may just put these categories and then put the project there, so that you don't get confused which one to work with. Then I wanted to show you some stuff around databases. So you probably know that all the IntelliJ-based IDEs already have databases and SQL functionality included, and that's coming from another product by JetBrains. We call it Data Grid. It's a database and SQL management IDE, which basically can replace what you normally would use, like SQL Yoke or MySQL Workbench, or PHP MyAdmin if you do PHP or something like that. So that's the thing which lets you manage all the data in the database, and also manage the schema of the database, and do the migrations, do all their queries in SQL and so on. So here I have the data, and I can change it. I can submit it to the VCS, of course, not to VCS, to the database. I can do the filtering, something like that. Wrong syntax. Yeah, you can do all of that, and then of course you can see their schema as well to see how this table has been created, and you can play with it, and navigate back and forth. And then of course you have for all the refactorings, like we have for all of the languages supported here. We have it also for SQL schema, for the database schema. And what you would do is that you would go and modify it, and then you will get a SQL script which you either can execute in the database right now from the IntelliJ, or you can open it in the editor and then you review it, and then you execute it somewhere externally. So you can modify all their all kind of table properties or columns or anything like that. And in fact, it supports a lot of different databases. So here I have some SQLite file-based, because I don't want to be dependent on the internet. But in your case, if it's MySQL, Postgres, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, anything else, you just get it here. You specify the configuration, and then you test the connection, and hopefully it works. And it's going to work for all the databases which have JDBC connectors, which basically most of the databases, except some Mongo style databases. But those you have to use dedicated plugins, and there are quite a lot of plugins support that. So then if you have your database somewhere behind a firewall or something like that, you would use SSH tunnel, you would use SSL to authorize there, and then eventually you would say what schema you're going to work with. Main, in my case, it's going to index it, it's going to get you all the columns, and then you will be able to work with database. One of my favorite things here is a comparison. So right now you're comparing two tables from the same database, but imagine if you have two databases, let's say one in development, another one you're staging, and you want to try to understand what changes of the SQL which you applied already on the staging or even on the production. And you can do the comparison. You can do the comparison for tables, like a table from one database to another database, or two tables from a single database, or you can do comparison for the whole databases. You can do all of that, and it will tell you what is the same and what is different. And then you say, okay, I want to migrate to the left. And it gets you all their SQL statement for all the migration, which you can then execute, and your left database or table are going to be altered in the changes from the right. And in this case, you will perform migration, and it should be all synchronized. Very convenient. Then if we are more on like database administration side or database architecture side, you can get all the structure here to understand how objects in your database relate one to each other. And you see all the structure, and you understand is it right or is it not. And then you can perform a lot of database related actions right from here. You can do refactorings, you can do analysis, you can go to define usages and so on. So very powerful. But also what we would do, of course, is that we would run some queries, right? Because that's what we do. We would do select, and you would get all the completion. And of course it's going to be very similar experience, similar to how you would get it in the IDE for Java or for PHP or for JavaScript or anything. And you would get all of that, and then you can run it, of course. But you want to have it in the IDE as well. Let me show you. Let's say that we would like to have some string, which is SQL query. And we start typing, select from some database, and there is no completion. And it's kind of not that convenient compared to what we just had in the console. But what we can do is to inject language or reference, SQL. Here we go. Because we are connected to the database in the same project, we get this connection in your code, in the string literal. And it gets you all the completion and all the suggestions and all the inspections as well. Moreover, you can just start editing this fragment here, and as we type and as we do their formatting, more like SQL-like formatting, it's going to take care of all their line breaks and all the codes and so on. Even better, you can work with other languages as well. So let me show you their example of JSON. How would we normally start writing JSON? go. JSON, opening brackets, closing brackets. Oh, okay, it's already given us an error because we did not escape that. One more time, just one, 1, 2, 3, not really clean. Let's see how you would do that with your inject language. JSON. Once more, Alt Enter so that it's annotated with language JSON, which means that any time your colleague or yourself is going to open this file in your IDE, it's going to inject JSON inside this JSON string. It's a JSON fragment. A bit better, right? So you get all the JSON and they're nicely formatted, and then you have it here. In fact, for some languages, these language injections have even better support. So, for example, for regular expressions, there is a special regular expression checker. So all the times when you would go to Google and you would start Googling, how do I test my regular expression? And there you would get those like websites which don't work or which ask you to register or like to buy a subscription for the first month or something. Instead of that, you can just use Alt Enter, check regular expression, and there you check it right here. So this one is MasterCard card number, so it should start with 4, and it matches. So you can just test it with the ID. Okay, next thing is related to their RESTful APIs. So you probably do some RESTful APIs and testing of them. So for quite some time we have this RESTful APIs testing. So what do? We do the HTTP method, let's say get. We're going to connect to your JetBrains website, IDEA, and we get some headers. We could have set some cookies. Never mind, we just start running it. It's going to connect. It's going to get the response. We get the file. We get the response headers. It's basically the postman inside the IDE. But you probably see that this label that REST client is deprecated. So if you did not use this one, don't use. I'll show you a new way how would we do that. So we moved towards more editor-friendly way of working with RESTful APIs. So now what you will do, get JetBrains.com/idea. You get a condition. You get all of that. You just write it here, then you run. And then what you're going to get is a real file, temporary file. Like right here. You navigate there, you either go to declaration, command D. Do you see this real file? And in fact, if you would run it again, let's say this one, you would get a second file, second response, as soon as my internet does that. Right, we got the two responses, and now we are going to compare them. So this one is really convenient when you work with their RESTful API, so you design it, and you find a bug, and you see that the response is incorrect. So you fix your API in the code, and right in the code, just beside, you say, okay, let's run it again, and let's compare the results, and that's the results comparison. You will see what is the difference in their response, and there you will be able to understand whether you fix the bug or not, whether you introduce some other issues or anything. So it's going to show you real difference here, and there. That's it. You work with it as there is a normal difference from the VCS. And in fact, what I'm showing it to you right now is their Scratch file, and the Scratch file is their temporary file. And there, for this REST client, you have to have either a real file or a temporary file of their file extension REST or HTTP. And Scratch file is something which is not kept in your project, but we just kept in a special folder for temporary files. And there, with that you can just play, and it's not going to screw up your project. The same you can do for Java or any other language supported. Basically, it gets all their context information from your project. So I have Java project here, so I get all the condition, I get all their analysis, I get all their running and debugging capabilities, and that's very useful, for example, when you check some solutions from Stack Overflow, because you never go with the first solution. You have to go like through 12 of them before you find the one which is working, and you definitely don't want to screw up your project before you find the working solution. So you first can test it in the Scratch files, and then you can move it to your project. Additionally, you can just use it as your notepad and make a shopping list. Stuff like that. And then you're not gonna put it into your project, you're gonna have it temporary still. You will be able to see it, so you see all the recent files tells me the Scratch files as well. Then another thing I wanted to show you, which is new. Well, you probably know their postfix templates. Something like that. And their postfix template is postfix completion is something you post annotate some of their constructs, and then you press tab and it expands with some other construct. It's not particularly new, but what we have right now is that you can define your own postfix completion, because before you could not. And there you would have to rely on about 20-30 of the postfix completions JetBrains provide you for Java, for JavaScript, for PHP, SQL, and so on. Right now you can define your own for language supported, and you can define the minimum language level as well, so that it does not show you this postfix completion for the non-supported language. Then another thing which is new, and I didn't know it's such a big thing though, before we announced that it's a new feature. So we have these to-do commands, which basically means that you can put command and then to-do, and please fix it. You see that it's highlighted here, and you will be able to see it here as well. Moreover, you will be able to see it in their commit dialog. You will be able to say check to do, and before you push your changes, it will tell you, okay, you have those to-do items which you did not fix yet. Do you want to fix them now? So before you would be able to do only you would be able to do only single line to do. Now you can do multiple line to do. So you can ask Aaron to fix it. And in order to make it part of the to-do, you just need to indent it at least once more. And in fact, those things, they are very customizable. So if you have some custom stuff, like I do, for example, I have a custom one, which is what the hell, instead of to-do. Because to-do is not big enough. What the hell is the thing? Because it shouts at you. And how would you do that is just provide a very simple regex here. So if it's what the hell, then you define different backgrounds, foregrounds, and error strike marks, and so on. And a lot of those things, by the way, it's all inspections. So you probably know that we run static analysis in the background all the time. So all the time you work with the code, there is a static analysis there. And it gets you the results. So for many of the inspections, and we have about 2,000 of them, we have quick fixes. So quick fixes is probably the second most popular completion. It's Alt-Enter, and it tells you different stuff. So for example, here it tells me, okay, probably you would like to unwrap if statement or invert if condition. And if I screw up something here, like here, it tells me that it cannot resolve a symbol anymore. It tells me, okay, maybe you would like to create a type parameter. It's very context dependent. In different places, it's going to tell you different things. And you can keep exploring it really for years because we have so many inspections. And in order to see what inspections do you have, you can easily go here and see what's happening. So they are categorized. So here, for example, those for Java, called standard issues, and so on. In fact, about half of those inspections, they're disabled by default because there would be too many and they would take too much time to to test against your solution, because in static analysis we don't really run your code. We run static analysis in the background, and there you get the results instantly in the IDE. So what you can do is that you can configure inspections which you are interested in, and then you can configure the severity. So for example, should it be an error, should it be a warning, should it be like a typo style or something like that. And then you can also define the scope. So for example, you can say that it should be applied only to project files or only to change files or something else. In addition to that, you can also define different profiles. So for example, one might want to define different inspection profiles or production code on not yet production projects, like hobby projects or something like that. So in this case, you would not be that strict to your hobby project as you would be strict for your production code. Oh, and by the way, to find the inspections which are new in the next version, in the new version of Intellij, well, actually in the next version there is nothing new because it's just started a few days ago. But in the 18.3 version which got released a week ago, we got those inspections. So you can just filter them out and you can see what's new is cooking in Intellij, and that would again work for all their tools, all the IDs by JetBrains. It's very similar. If you would like to investigate what's been coming in the last version, 18.2, you do the same, and there you see their list of inspections. Then I wanted to show you a bit of data flow. So data flow normally would work like that. So you go to one of the variables, for example, and and you would like to understand where it has been changed, and there you want to see the data flow, like where it is going to be touched by your code. So what you want to do is that you do data flow to here or from here. So for example, in this case, you want to analyze data flow to here, and there you see that with this data flow private integer ID, we have these actions here, and you basically see what's been happening in your code. And again, we are not running your code, so we understand it from analysis, no running of your code. But now there is even more powerful solution, and it's let me show it to you here. It's a new action. So for example, here we just have very simple class, and there here for the object you can use a new evaluate expression type thingy, which is Control-Shift-P, and there say that we'd like to evaluate type of this expression, and it tells us it's an object. But then we press it one more time, and it's going to go through their code again, and it's going to try to find the constraints. Better example: int value, different conditions for int value, else, if, and so on. Here, let's do it again. Int value, without expression. Int, well, yeah, it's int because we have all of those things. Let's try it twice. It's going to tell us the range. It tells us the boundaries, the constraints. So what are the current constraints of this variable? And why do we need it? Well, because we can use it, for example, here, because it tells us that the call to get always fails because index is out of bounds. So that's why we need this data flow. You basically use it. We use it later in the inspections, and we try to help you understand whether what you are trying to do is correct or incorrect. So data flow is very important for us, and we like how it works. So then a couple of words about the VCS. Probably one of my favorite additions to the version control of the last few versions of Intellij is a partial commit. So for example, if you are working in there with some file and you accidentally or not accidentally fixed a few bugs instead of one bug, and you still need to commit them one by one, and you don't have them in different change lists, you can just simply go to the commit dialog, and you can choose that you would like to commit this one and not commit this one. So that's basically going to tell you, okay, these changes, you're going to tell the IDE this change should be kept in the change list until I commit again, and then you commit the first one, you introduce some new changes, then you commit again, if you like. If you don't, then you just keep them on the change list. Then we have a lot of stuff around GitHub. So we have very good integration with GitHub, but now it's even better because you can specify all the 20 accounts on GitHub you have. And moreover, you can work with their two-factor authorization now as well. So for example, if you have two-factor authorization enabled, you can provide login and password once, and then the ID is going to ask you for the second factor, like SMS message or the token, and then it's going to go and get a permanent token for you so that you don't need to go to GitHub and generate it yourself. It will generate it, and from now on, it's going to be working with it as with a permanent token. And then, of course, you can switch between your accounts. So if you have a few ones, like one for work, one for your hobby projects, you can do that. And another thing related to GitHub is pull requests. So you could do their creation of the pull request for quite some time already. But now we decided to work with their viewing pull request and work with the pull request from GitHub directly in the IDE, because that's very standard for workflow. If you use GitHub, what would you do? You would review the pull request you have there. You would want to see the list. You would want to probably go through them with different states. Then you would like to see the information about what's been happening there, what are the labels, what are the changes. Then you would like to check out this changes as a local branch, and then you would like to merge it. So far we only supported a read version on all the read operations for pull requests on GitHub. That means that you can see the information, you can view the information, you can see the changes, but then in order to merge it, you have to check out the local branch, and then you have to merge it through the master to the master manually. In the next version, the team promised that they're going to work on the write operations as well, which means that they will be able to use their GitHub API to merge pull requests without doing this manual logic with merging to the master. Okay, that's GitHub. Then they did quite some stuff around annotations. Well, they reworked the whole framework here, and they added a few interesting options. For example, ignoring the white spaces, and they're detecting movements within the file. And from here you can navigate to the git log and see what's happening. And one of my favorite things is history up to here. So it's going to go through all the branches available, and it will tell you all the history, everything which has been happening with this file in all the branches. Very convenient when somebody removes it or changes in some other branch and you would like to understand what's happening with this particular file. Because before, well, you can go through the version of the files in different branches, but it's not as convenient as here. And another thing which you don't have here in the project, but which is already supported by the IDE, is their GitSub modules. So for years, we did not have support for GitSub modules. Now it's here, so if you use GitSub modules in your VCS, you can just work with it in the IDE as well.